Hey everyone, I'm Jay, and in this video I'm going to insert a table into a web page using Dreamweaver. Right, so this is a table that I've already inserted. It kind of looks like a spreadsheet. That's what tables are. That is the original purpose of the internet, was for science types to be able to share their data. So we're going to go ahead and create a table. It's very easy in Dreamweaver. If you're typing this by hand, it's quite tedious, but Dreamweaver does take a lot of the pain away from us. So let's get started. I'm going to hit the insert, right? Scroll down to table. It's pretty much that simple, right? Click on table. I'm going to do a 3-row and 3-column table. You get to choose the width of the table, and you can choose either pixels or percent. I'm going to do a percent. I don't want 200% wide. 100% seems fine. Border thickness, that's going to be those lines on there. You want to make sure that has a value. The default value for cell padding and cell spacing in Dreamweaver is going to be left blank. It's not going to set those things. However, I am going to explicitly set them to 0. I don't want any cell padding and cell spacing, and I don't want to leave it up to the browser default because that may change over time. And then the default for headers is none. What the headers are is going to change a little bit of the code, and it's going to make either the left column bolded or the top row bolded, or both of those bolded. And those are for column and row headers. And this is going to depend on what your data is. Right? I'm just going to do a quick example, and I'm going to say none of these are the header. Right? So 3 rows, 3 columns, no headers. We can do a caption and a summary. Right? I'm going to do test caption and test summary, and put those in there so that you can see which one is which and where they are, and we'll have a quick look at the code. You can see where they put those. You can see all of these values in the code. So press OK. There's my new table. I'm in design mode. I can do this from design or live, I think. Dreamweaver will allow me to do either one. And I have my properties window at the bottom, so I click on my table properties. I could alter the number of rows and columns from down here. I could alter the cell padding and spacing. I could alter the width. I could name my table, alter the border, give it a class. You can do all these things from here. Something else you can do, which is quite nice in Dreamweaver, is I can click and drag and highlight, for example, one row, and then because I've selected multiple cells, I can actually click merge these cells, and it will turn all these cells into one cell. I'll look at the code and see what that does. It doesn't have to be just from one row. I can click multiple rows and columns and turn those all into one as well. Or if I made a mistake, I can just undo that, and then I can turn those into one cell as well. So cells in a table is an individual cell, like in a spreadsheet, individual ones. Rows go horizontal, columns go vertical. And if you ever forget which one is a row and which one is a column, the way I learned it and the way I continue to remember, the columns, if you think of the columns from the Colosseums in Greece, they go up and down. Columns go up and down, and that means rows must go horizontally. Let's have a look at our code and what we have here. So I actually have 2 tables. Let's scroll down to the new one. So the caption is going to be written as its own little thing, a caption, own little caption element called test caption. There are some settings for caption, but we're going to leave that for another day. The summary is set as an attribute of the table element itself, and it's not visible. It's going to be visible. Screen readers are going to be able to see it. I believe if you hover at some place in the table, you can see it there. The width is set as an attribute. You could also set the width using CSS. And then let's have a look at the meat of the table. We have a T body. We can have a T head and a T body. We don't have any headers set, so we just have the body, which is all the cells, rows, and columns that are in the body of it. Strictly speaking, you don't have to include a body. You can just start putting rows and cells in there. TR stands for table row. So there are 3 rows. The way tables are built are first the rows, and then each cell for each column goes into the rows. So it does get very difficult to work with if you're just typing in the code. Dreamweaver does abstract a lot of that away from us because we can just click into the cells and we can start typing. We can put images, or we can do whatever it is we're going to do directly in the table, and we can ignore the complex. Not really complex, it's just very long and tedious when you're looking at the code. So that first row, we made all the way across. We made one cell all the way across. So in that row, there is only one cell. TD is table data. Okay. And it has a col span or column span of 3. So that one cell will span across 3 columns. And when you're doing any kind of col span or row span, we have one below, you're going to start at the top left cell and then tell it how many columns to span and or how many rows to span. You can do both. You can do like a big square or rectangle in there. You can make it span multiple cells or multiple rows, columns or rows in both. You can do both in the same thing. There's a bunch of non-breaking spaces in here. That's what Dreamweaver defaults to put in there, just so that there's something, but there's nothing visible in there. So just a plain old non-breaking space. And then the row span element down here, we started with the top element. Also be sure that when you do span multiple columns or multiple rows, that when you get to the second part, or if you're spanning 7 columns across, the first one says column span 7, and then you don't code those other 6. If you do, you'll get one that's 7 across, and then you'll get 6 more in addition to it. You don't want that, right? So whenever you're spanning both columns and rows, you want to make sure that you don't put, if you are typing this by hand, if you are coding it, don't put in the cells that you have overridden. Don't put those in. Leave them blank. Right? Your browser will figure it out. That's the way it's supposed to be. And that is pretty much it. All right, that's everything I want to cover on here. All right, inserting tables with Dreamweaver, and then we have a little bit of a look at the code in there. Thanks for watching.